about 2 years ago, I started working on this project, which was essentially almost like interactive fiction, I guess. And I've always played around with like um, generating stuff. I kind of am someone who, well, I don't want to get too deep into that right now, but I was already playing around in that story with the idea of writing parts of it in an automated way. And then I put together through this kind of, the story eventually became this kind of story about queer sexuality. It was about this guy and his friends who went into the woods, and then which eventually just became an alley path because I was so enchanted by one of the alleys near where I live. So it's about these people who are just walking, and they end up in those, they make a couple mistakes, and they kind of like end up in this fey world inside of the woods, where there are fairies of a variety of types. I'm using the word fairy, but even though I hate using it because it has a lot of like connotations in modern media. I'm gonna adjust this. But it was about this guy who escaped into the woods, and he had this experience with these like otherworldly creatures, kind of from like Appalachian mythology. And in particular, at the end of it, there was this creature that he encountered that was so biological that it was alien. It was almost like if he had encountered something from another planet. And as I was working on that, I was thinking a lot about mythology and my past and religion, and the types of communities I had lived in and what I had felt like I had given the world, and just my own identity. And that would just all kind of simmered in my head for a couple years as I was working on it, and I just could not find a way really ultimately to like give that to the world yet. I don't know, there's too much. There were questions I couldn't answer yet that I needed to answer to finish writing it. So so that's part of the inspiration. The other inspiration is that I have for a very long time been interested in computing and in philosophy and in artificial intelligence, not necessarily building AI, but like the philosophy and theory of it. And as young as like 15 or 16 was kind of running into teachers who were kind of thinking I was like a conspiracy theorist for thinking it was coming. And then through my philosophy professors who laughed it off, and then now a lot of the stuff that I believed is coming about in a similar way to kind of what I don't know, this stuff has been sitting in me for years and years and years. I've read so many books, I've listened to so many talks, I've talked to so many people about this. I think about consciousness, and I think about the anxieties of the future a lot, and of the present, and I think about ways to influence the world positively, and I think about hope and hopelessness, and the way that images and symbols and memes can become the way that we spread ideas. And I've just always wanted to play in the space of artificial intelligence. I don't always love the down and dirty data science of it, but I've always loved generative art. I've always loved machines that talk. I've always loved the history of robots. I've always found data fascinating. And that leads me, I guess, into my next point, which is that I've also always noticed that literature about robots is also often in the sci-fi genre. Robots about it's literature about being queer, about being different, about not being seen as human, about being seen as a bunch of automated processes that result in somebody less than. And I've been so frustrated recently to see queer people just kind of step out of the AI space completely, whether it's because they're repeating stuff about energy usage, or any of the many fascinating, valid concerns about intellectual property and the future of the economy when AI is released. But like, I always have found it so magical. Like, I know it's not human, but to me it is a form of like synthetic intelligence. To interact with Google is interesting. To interact with a library used to be interesting. To interact with a city is interesting. To interact with a forest is interesting. To interact with any form of large-scale intelligence where you can almost zoom out and see the memes moving is, to me, I don't know. I'm an artist. I am a musician. I am a programmer. I am a writer. I'm a reader. am stewed in the humanities, and yet I am just like drawn for some reason to the questions that trying to answer the question about what intelligence is the questions and answers are just nesting and stacking and reforming right in front of us. And I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to live through a few technological eras, and this was one that I was excited for, and I feel made for, and I finally feel like I understand. I know it feels like time for me to act specifically. Okay, so then comes the question, what the hell am I building? And the answer is, I'm building a news site, sort of. It's not really news. It's going to be more like something that it's going to be an app that basically provides a series of headlines, almost like the New York Times, but for queer culture specifically. And it's going to sit at kind of the intersection of mythology and religion and art and queer culture and AI, and specifically at the intersection of queer culture and AI. It's going to initially be like it's just going to initially be like 5 links inside of an app that'll basically be like 5 headlines that you can look at, and it'll be free initially. And then eventually I'm going to build this into, I'm going to start, and already have started building out automated like forms of synthetic intelligence, small little systems that kind of use the existing systems and stack them together in certain ways and interact with each other in order to help me accomplish and sift through information. I imagine future videos I'll go into this in so much more detail because there's so many questions this raises, but basically the idea is that I'm going to have this news site where I can pull in kind of the things I learned through writing the forest story, strangely some of the characters from that forest story, and also this idea of a publication that appeals specifically to queer people who are interested in how queer life will look in the future. I've actually already done some work this past week. So what I've done so far is I've chosen finally what I'm going to build, which is this thing called the Elseform standard, which I know is kind of a mouthful, but it's going to be this publication I was talking about. I have identified the dollar amount at which I need to earn from whatever types of things I build in the future, and which I'm calling my freedom number. I also have chose the accountability mechanism I'm going to use, which in this case right now is like tweets and a YouTube video. The YouTube video will be me and as myself talking to you. The tweets will be from an account called the Elseform, who is going to be kind of the like editor of this publication that I'm overseeing. It's going to be partially me, partially, well, we'll talk about that more late in future videos, but and then the other thing is I've actually started to build some of this out. Like I went and got the website for www.theelseformstandard.com. There's nothing there right now, but I have the domain, at least for the next few years. I also set up X accounts, and I set up a whole bunch of Google accounts, like 12 of them, and I picked the tech stack, like how I'm going to actually start building this product, which is in the Apple ecosystem first, because I just want to learn those skills myself. And because that's what Omar and I have in the home, so Omar can help me test. Okay, running out of time. So the last stuff I want to say is just that in the next week, I'm going to put out 5 more tweets from the Elseform and make a new video for you. I'm going to get signed up. I'm going to learn about the Apple development environment and get all that stuff installed, find a tutorial program I want to follow. I'm going to sign up for the Apple development program. I'm going to learn how testing works, because I think through testing I can install my app on other people's phones. I hate that I'm not going to be able to, I think you have an Android, and I hate that I won't be able to go on your phone yet, but we'll figure that out later. I also got the website, so I'm going to kind of dual release, but I want to get this on the phone first because learning iPhone development is important to me, and also because just career-wise and freedom-wise, and then second, because I want to be able to test back and forth with Omar in the house. And then the next month, by the end of the month, I'm going to have, well, within a month of this video, you know, I want to have an iPhone app that displays those 5 headlines like I was talking about. I want to have a database on the back end from which those headlines can be fetched each morning. I want to generate those on the fly every morning using the agents that I'm building to go out and fetch that kind of information, write the headlines for me. I want to make depending on what I learn about the testing program that they have, I want to get this app installed on Omar's phone. And then I want to begin learning how scheduled and automated tweeting work in 2025, because I know there was a lot of abuse by bots in the past. And so I want to see, like, as somebody who's creating like I don't know, because for me, this is like a form of artistic expression. And it's also like kind of an earnest attempt to engage with the technology. I don't know what's available there. I might just have to schedule them. There might be a way to automate some of it. I don't really know. So anyway, I just want to take this chance to tell you, it's funny, I feel like I talked about so much and didn't get to what I'm building in much detail or really explain how it plugs into the forest story. But I wanted to get this in front of you and give you a chance to just start asking me questions and get some feedback, because I'm figuring this all out in my own head as I go. I've got Omar to bounce stuff off of, and sometimes I can trap my kid, but any feedback. I'm wandering into some weird territory, the intersection of journalism and art and queer culture and anything coming from the big tech companies, especially something that is going to have such profound impacts on our social structure potentially, and on people's livelihoods and their sense of meaning and self. I don't know. This is weird stuff to wade into, but I think I hope that my heart is a good heart to wade into this and start sorting stuff out. I know so many people have gone before me. I have no illusion of how minuscule I am in all of this, but I feel compelled to speak because I just don't see the world around me responding in a way that I feel like is appropriate to the time. So, okay. Anyways, I don't know how long these videos can be. I don't think I said, but I'm going to try. I put some effort into like getting some lighting in my face and like taking notes and stuff before I filmed this, but I also have no skills in this area. I don't like seeing my own face a lot, which I'm working on. And I definitely am terrified by the idea of putting anything out in the world that can be traced back to me so that someone can look at it and say, hey, that guy's trying hard, because for some reason I grew up wanting to disappear. So anyway, thank you so much for checking in with me. Thank you for watching this all the way to the end, if you made it this far. Thanks for watching any part of it. I might feed this through a tool to get it down to 15 minutes, but I'm going to do minimal editing right now. I don't want to become a YouTuber, but I do want to learn the stories of visual storytelling, or the skills of visual storytelling. And I think being alive in this era, well, you just got a microphone, so you understand. Okay. I love you and I appreciate you, and I'm really grateful that you are checking in on me. Good night.